I don't know how long I'm going to be today here in the shop. It's Sunday. It's supposed to be a family day. Turn on the fan. It's really hot here. Uh, but I want to see if I can get the sides bent. And I haven't made videos about that. And I figured it might be something interesting. There might be some people out there who are making guitars, uh, thinking about doing acoustics or something of the sort, and feeling a little intimidated by it. So I figured I'll make a quick video, add it here to the channel. Maybe it'll be helpful to somebody, or maybe it'll encourage somebody to try one of these things, because it's. I used to be pretty scared myself of trying it, and but I've learned quite a few things, and I think I should share. Um, in the channel, I have a few guitars that I've been working on for a little over a month. They are here. Let me show a top. They're like small traveler sized guitars. This is the top for one of them. This is made out of cedar with a very simple bracing. And of course I have the templates, and I've been making some tooling to make my life easier. I made some molds. I shared this on a vlog here in the channel too. And already closed one of the boxes, which I have down here. And on this one, it's the same wood combination. I'm using cedar, mahogany back and sides, and I think you'll be able to see I already routed all the binding channel. And I am really contemplating not doing plastic binding. I was going to do plastic binding, making my own binding from PVC, and I started doing it, but it just doesn't look great. It looks kind of cheap. And if you put a lot of work into these things and then you feel like, oh, I'm going to cheapen my effort by doing, taking a shortcut or going the easy way or what have you, it can be kind of depressing. But some of the things I learned about bending, like I said, that I think are valuable, and hopefully uh, if you're scared of doing this, you might learn a thing or two from my mistakes. Is that the first time I ever tried to bend sides, I started out with something way too thin. There's this idea that the wood cannot be too thin because then the guitar will be too weak, and I get it. I I felt the same way too. I thought sides would be maybe 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters thick. Why just Since I thought so, because they felt rigid on the acoustic guitars that I owned. Um, but the truth is that they're usually anywhere from 1.5 millimeters to maybe the thickest 3 millimeters. And it very much so depends on the type of wood that you are using. If you have some really hard to bend wood, like let's say walnut, apparently it's one of those, then it is in your best interest to go as thin as possible. Uh, that being said, there's obviously a lot of things to consider when doing that. Now it's starting to fizz. Um, because if you make it way too thin, when it gets to sanding and getting the final finish surface, you might sand through. So like, I'm not saying go ahead and make it less than a millimeter. Obviously not. So that's something to consider. But I think I've discovered the magic number for at least mahogany, and it's 2 millimeters. If at 2 millimeters, I can actually bend without damaging it, and um, and have enough meat to sand it and make it look pretty nice. But the other thing that scared me about it was thinking about the special tooling that I was going to have to purchase to do this. But at the end of the day, you don't really need something too special. This little thing that you see here on my screen is literally a aluminum tube with a soldering iron inside of it. That's all it is. And I didn't get the 30-watt soldering iron. It is stronger. I think it's 70 watts. You can get that at a car parts store. So it's not really something too complicated to get. Uh, and uh, and that made all the difference, because the first time I was trying to bend, it was just too cold, and you need a lot more heat than that. And then the third thing I learned is about having patience. Like many things with guitar building, I am right now trying to fit. I'm going to see if I can show it on the screen. I don't know how long this live is going to be, but I want to make sure I'm putting out content every single day, at least a small short. So this is me holding my feet to the fire. As you can see, I'm not quite there. I'm almost there, but I'm working on just that one bend. That's all I'm doing, and that's going to be my focus for maybe another 10 minutes or so. Um, Obviously, if I was using, let's call it a one of those heat blankets, one of those better systems, this would be, I'm guessing, way faster. And I've seen a lot of videos where they have these chambers, right, where they put the wood in a box that steams the wood for like an hour or something like that. And when it comes out, it's basically a noodle. And then they they press it into the mold and leave it overnight to cool, and boom, you got perfect size. And I think that's great, but it's also a lot of work just to get to that level of tooling, and possibly also it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people because they're like, "Ah, I can't build all that. I don't have money to get myself a steamer. Uh, why am I going to put so much money into something that I might just make once, you know?" So I guess the point being is that you can get away with a little piece of aluminum in a soldering iron, and for your first time at least. Now, if I was building just this guitar exclusively over and over and over and over, maybe I would invest in building a way better system. It would make sense. But because uh, I don't think that's going to happen, I want to. It's it's not the only model I make, nor the only model I want to make. Uh, I think this is fine for now. For now, we'll see what happens later. Another thing that I'm going to put on this video, in case you're somebody who's thinking about bending, is that when you're applying the pressure on the piece of wood, obviously keeping it wet, uh, just wait for the wood to start giving in. If I can describe it, it's almost like you put the pressure on the piece, and after a little while, you hear obviously you hear it fizzle a little bit, and after a little while, it'll start with the same without you pushing any harder. It'll start to bend, and that's kind of um, when you know you're not going to risk breaking it, because if you get too crazy, too impatient, and you press too hard, uh, you are gonna break it. It's gonna, especially because, let's face it, there's a very big chance that your stock, like mine, is not quarter sawn. So um, I saw, and with this, I think I'm going to close the live because again, I'm just trying to put some valuable content out there, and I realize when things are too long, people don't watch. It's my case too. I see a video, what, 2 hours? No, I'm not watching that. I saw a guy named Pragmatic Luthier. I post a video about doing sides in another way, laminations, which basically means that um, you cut the sides even thinner than 2 millimeters. Maybe you go less than a millimeter, which makes it almost like a leaf, right? So it's easy to bend without doing heat or getting it wet or anything. But then you glue those pieces together when you write on the mold, and that is something really interesting. I think I'm gonna give it a try one of these days because it would also allow you to, if you're going to do solid sides more than anything, like if you're going to paint them, which I think would be the case, but it will allow me also uh, to use some scrap wood. You know, I could just use pieces of wood that are uh, not that pretty looking and sandwich them in between a really nice piece of wood or you know, something of the sort. Meaning, I could put a beautiful piece on the outside, and then the inside it could be whatever. It could be the ugliest piece of wood I have in my pile. So I find that to be kind of cool. But I don't know if it's any easier, honestly. Let me see. Let me see where I am. Yeah, still got a long ways to go. Obviously, it's still kind of hot, so I can bend it into shape. But something that I've learned from not being patient enough is that if I don't get this to easily fit in the mold, when I'm trying to close the box, I'm fighting it, and that's not very pleasant. So I'm gonna keep at this, and maybe I'll post some pictures later on Instagram, or maybe make another vlog in the for the shop a little later. All right. So, anyways, that's going to be it. Hopefully, some of the things I talked about were helpful if you're going to start bending your own sides. And yeah, I'll see you guys on another video.